welcome back.
Hey, Caitlin.
We're here.
We
Here we
are,
are.
and we're recording according to the little thing on my screen. So that's good. Good. All right. Yeah, how are you? I'm loving the glasses and
Thank you so much.
I feel like
Thank
it's
you so
to
much.
keep this from getting the explicit mark for now. It may later, but the DGAF mode for you.
Yeah. I'm in my feminist grandmother era.
Perfect.
I I have decided that I'm not coloring my hair anymore. I'm letting the gray happen. I actually would really like it to speed up so I
Oh,
could
yeah.
get like the good like I'm ready. I want the stripe. I
Mm-hmm.
want a caftan situation. I
Mm.
want like big chunky jewelry. Yeah. Yep.
This sounds very
I'm
comfortable. Like I'm
Mhm.
just waiting to embrace my aging gay moo
What are you waiting
situation.
for?
Um, I don't know, honestly. Um,
Today is the day.
I think for when I
And quite
can live,
honestly, like the cocktail is the right mood for an aging gay moo.
it really is. I mean, I think I'm waiting for when I can live near a beach all the time.
Okay.
Um, I don't know. Like that's a good question.
But Margaritaville is a state of mind.
It
So,
is. It's also a machine,
uh-huh.
and
We
a
have one.
restaurant. You do. We have somewhere the Margaritaville cocktail mixer
Yeah.
machines. So made by them. So then it became a brand. Well, it was a brand kind of
Mhm.
before, I guess.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, but today's not about margaritas and it's not about Margaritavilles. It is
No.
like
It's Long
like
Island iced tea. We're here to
yeah,
get
we're
after it.
yeah, we are gonna get after it. This one, so my thinking on this one was always just like you take whatever booze you have to get rid of and you dump it together like an ounce,
Mhm.
an ounce, splash it with some Coke and maybe squeeze a lime into it and call it a Long Island iced
Yeah.
tea. And
Yeah.
I feel like I'm not far off with that
You're not.
assessment.
This hurts my insides.
Mm,
It's a Long Island iced tea. The original recipe, which I feel this bears mentioning, is from a bartender named Bob Rosebud, in quotes, is his nickname, but spelled
yes.
exactly like you think it is.
So Bob Butt, who went by
Yeah,
Rosebud, and I feel like
Rose. It's too. Yep.
if we're gonna unpack that, we're gonna get the explicit warning on this one. So maybe we just leave it as is.
This is a
Um,
CTA podcast after dark.
but yeah, but I just do. I wonder, like, did any of his friends call him Starfish?
No, I
Um,
think they called him
no, they called
Rosebud,
him Rosebud. Yeah, I mean, and it's right up
but
there.
also yes,
Hmm.
that's something.
Um, but yeah, and he's dead. I did look it up. So he
Hmm.
invented this when I was 1 year old in 1972. So pre Caitlin, definitely pre Zach,
Hmm.
our producer, who's patiently recording this and
Standing
listening to
by.
us off mic. But he was in a bar in Long Island, and there was a competition, and I was reading up on this a little bit more. He also the bar had a lot of triple sec for some reason.
Huh.
They couldn't get rid of it, and so he wanted a drink that would use triple sec regularly because it's really like what do you use triple sec in a margarita, and that's about it, right?
Uh-huh. I
Um,
mean, triple sec is really just like orange liqueur, though.
yeah,
Like, I know it's not Cointreau, but
correct. But
it'll do in a pinch.
yeah, and it tends to sweeten things up a little bit, which helps.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, so he invented this, and that it got its name because the bar was on Long Island, and it kind of looked like an iced tea, and so they called it a Long Island iced tea. Okay, I mean, back when naming things was simple, right? Where are you, and what does it
Well,
look
yeah.
like? So, um, yeah, this one, what gets me in this one, honestly, is the sour mix, because that's what gives it so much acid. I mean, on top of all of the booze that's in it.
Uh-huh.
Um, but as much as I complain about, like, I think I did this recently, like, that sounds like a really small drink. I'd need to double that. This one, nope.
You don't need a double.
Oh,
This is
no.
a single, and then you sip on it for like 3 hours.
Mhm.
So it's an ounce of gin, rum, tequila, triple sec, and vodka each, 1 ounce of each of those,
Mhm.
and then an ounce and a half of homemade sour mix. And can you expound on homemade sour? Because to me, sour is just lime juice.
Anytime we have a homemade sour mix, we do just do the lime juice. Like we
Okay.
would put 1.5 ounces of lime juice in this because I don't like sour mix, whatever's in it. Um, But let me
Yeah, yeah, what I don't
let's
I
see.
need more.
Oh,
What
so
is
you
in
add it's just simple syrup and lemons and limes is a sour mix. So you add a little bit of sugar
Okay,
to it to make it sweet.
got it.
Yeah, sugar, water, lemons, and limes. So, and looking at this, yeah,
Okay.
you just make a simple. So what this really probably is an ounce of lime juice and a half an ounce of simple syrup, is my
Yeah.
guess. Like you could give you 1.5 ounces of sour, and then of
Mhm.
course for color only, you give it a little
Little
splash of cola because we don't use brand names. Coke,
in
you'd
this,
use Coke.
yeah, it's just Coke.
And I remember we were talking about this earlier, and Zach said, I was surprised how little cola there actually is in one. Because there's a video of Rosebud
Mhm.
making this,
Just
and
a splash.
we'll post that in the on the podcast page for this one. But yeah, he's and I'm like, oh yeah, it's just a hit to give it a light brown color so it looks like iced tea, because everything else you put
Mhm.
in it is clear, basically.
Clear. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I used to
I
drink
suppose you could
these.
use, like, I don't know if you'd wanna use spiced rum. I think that'd be gross with the rest of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, but a spiced iced tea like a chai tea, does it give it? Is it a Long Island chai tea then? I don't know.
You know that's tea, right?
Yeah, I know, but we use it differently here. But I do know that chai means tea, so it's just TT.
An
Which
iced chai.
also we're just gonna dance around the explicit here with the TTs and the rosebuds. Um, so yeah, so these also you'll find bars where these are on special for like $2 or $3 or whatever, and it's a
Because
lot of
it's a
booze.
fire sale.
Yeah, it is. It's like it's gonna be my cheap gin, rum, tequila, triple sec that I'm
Oof.
not using, my cheap vodka, like the Gordon's in the plastic bottle or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
but if you
Little
make it at home,
Hawkeye.
yeah, if you make it at
Some
home, use good stuff, like at least mid shelf stuff. But
But if you're making this at home, I have some questions for you about your personal life.
well, I mean, maybe therapy might be something you should
This just
consider.
I mean, yeah, yep, yep. It doesn't sound good to me. Like this doesn't even I don't know. I can't find a thing in here that I would be like, "Oh, I bet that maybe tastes pleasant."
Well, I mean,
I don't know.
for me, these always tasted pretty neutral, so they were easy to drink. Aside from the acidy stuff, if you've got acid reflux, this is not a drink for you. Um, but when I was younger, one, the bars would have them on special for like a buck 50 or $2 because that was 20 some 30 years ago, whatever. Two, it's a lot of booze because this is in a Collins glass, so that's the tall, skinny
Yeah.
glass.
Yeah.
It's a lot of booze. Um, and so you get a lot of value for your money if your goal is to get buzzed and you're 23.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I would say if you're making these at home just for the evening.
Will you just like
Mm,
drop me a line? I would be
oh,
happy to talk to
we,
you about
we'd
this.
love to understand what's going on in your life to do that.
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions and
If you're
potentially
making
like
a
some gross
picture of these, then send us a
heavens to Betsy.
video because we'd like to maybe see that because that seems interesting.
Hmm.
Whew.
Yeah, it gives me heartburn.
All right, and you do just, I
But it would
guess
be cute. Yeah, it'd be cute with a moo
it would
It'd be
be. I
cute with
mean,
a moo.
and to finish this off, like you do, you can put it all in the Collins glass to make sure it fits, and then put it in a shaker, shake it couple of times, and then pour it back into the glass. And you can
Mhm.
leave the ice in it, like all that.
My favorite note here is the garnish. Garnish with a lemon and then brace yourself.
Yeah, it is not a fast drinker. Like you should sip this over 2 hours at least,
Two like
maybe three.
yeah.
Because a normal drink is like an ounce and a half or so of booze, right? Or two,
Yeah.
maybe.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Um,
I mean like 3 to 4 ounces total, I think.
I mean, and the
Like but that's with your
descriptions, yeah,
mixers. Yeah.
exactly. The descriptions on this are hilarious too. Like refreshing but strong, you know, tea colored beverage. Yes, it is definitely not actual
Tea
iced tea.
colored.
But oh, the other
I
thing.
wonder if there's an opportunity to do like an infusion. Like, could you make your own mixer? Like, could you mix your own color with a little actual like Earl Grey
I think so.
situation?
Or what about like
Yeah.
a hibiscus kind of tea? That might actually be really
Yeah.
nice in here. Now we're making a whole new drink. Um, Speaking of teas, so Lipton has finally joined the hard booze in a can
Oh, for
thing.
Pete's sake.
And Lipton, your grandmother's tea company is now making hard teas in a can. I saw that
Can I tell
from
you
our friend Ty on Twitter,
on
had put
Twitter,
that out.
my mom over the summer, my mom was a teacher, and so over the summer she was home with us all of the time. But I remember like she would set out her lawn chair in the backyard and like we would run around, but she would make like dry Lipton tea mix, like the
Mm-hmm.
powdered
Mm-hmm.
tea that had like I can still like the grittiness. I can still taste it, and then I would like sneak drinks of it, and she didn't like that. And now having a tiny child who steals all my shit, I understand why that was so obnoxious because it's
Mm-hmm.
like I just want one thing for myself. So
I am
I'm
trying
sorry
to
if you're
have
drinking. Yeah,
a powdered
yeah,
premixed iced tea, and you are ruining it
yeah.
for me.
Yeah, I can hear like she would have like the biggest glass that we had with a bunch of ice, and then she would mix up the yeah.
I mean, she should have switched to Long Island iced teas, and then she would have been like cared less.
Yeah, she didn't my parents weren't like super into cocktails or beverages when I was younger, but now this is probably her speed.
Hmm, could be good. Maybe that could be a theme for one of your camp carols coming up.
Oh gosh.
You could have a
Yeah.
Long Island theme, and then you could have a boardwalk. You could have Long Island iced teas. Um,
Here's the thing. I love my family dearly.
mhm.
I don't know that I want to spend an extended weekend with them if we're drinking Long Island iced tea.
I think that's fair.
Kindly.
I think it's
I
only if
think
you're drinking the Long Islands and no one else is.
yeah, and no one else is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right, fair
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
Well, on that, we should probably take a quick break and then come
I think,
back.
yeah, if a familial Long Island iced tea would be a red flag for me,
Yeah, and
which takes us into some red flags that you might find when you're hiring an agency.
yep, absolutely. And we're back. We have not finished our Long Island iced teas. We're actually not drinking those today. That would be. Could you imagine this podcast if
It's
we did?
10:40 in the morning.
I mean,
Cheers.
it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Okay, Jimmy.
All right, so we're talking about red flags today, and we did have the Long Island because if you
It's a
go
bit
on,
of a red flag.
it is you go on
First
a
date, Long Island, that's maybe a time
yep,
to make your emergency call from the bathroom.
business meeting, interviewing an employee, they order a Long Island, red flag, red flag. But
Yeah.
today we want to. So we do a lot of pitching. We talk to a lot of
Yes.
people. I guess pitching isn't really it anymore. It's really the discovery call, right? Like that's what we
Mhm.
do. Like we have
Mhm.
this, free 30-minute, 45-minute, whatever it ends up being, call with you just to see if like one we
It's
can
like
do what
it
you
is
need.
really like a first date.
Hmm.
It's a get to know you situation. We're
Yep.
feeling each other out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like a 30-minute speed date.
Yeah.
So we
Everybody's on their best behavior.
Yeah, I guess it's like that coffee. So you don't want to commit to anything more than coffee because that can be
Yeah.
like 15, 20, 30 minutes. And if
Mhm.
it's like you don't want to move forward, you're just like, well, coffee was done. It was nice to meet you. I'm out.
Mhm. See
And
ya.
we could actually get into, as a follow-up to this, client red flags. So I know Zach's taking notes. It's probably on his list, but this
Oh.
one's agency red flags. Red flag number one, Caitlin: guaranteed metrics and results.
This is so shifty.
It is. I promise you'll have the first result on Google search.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm. I guarantee you'll have 200 leads by Friday. Mm-mm.
That's such a lie.
No,
No.
they're over promises, and it goes back to that, like, if it's too good to be true, which will come up in another one as well, like it probably
Mhm.
is. Um,
Yeah.
there's always levels of risk with marketing. There's no guarantee. This is not a science. It's sort of an art science combo,
Yeah.
and we can make.
Human behavior is too unpredictable to guarantee anything.
Right. I mean, and so are like Google's algorithm, Facebook's
Mhm.
algorithm, changes they make to it. It can be a black hole. Like you can guess at what
Yes.
they're doing, but they don't actually tell you this is exactly what's going to happen if we do this.
Mhm.
And so a good agency can manage that and help you work through it. But a really good example is like, Google made a change to site authority, how the authority that your website
Yeah.
has on a scale of 1 to
Yep.
100. So like your Googles and Amazons and Apples are like at the 100 or the 95s, and so the rest of us
Mhm.
kind of live in that like sub 25 range. And we had a client that was at 38, and in December, and in January they were at 25. And they were like, what the heck? Like, well, and it's like, okay, like, first of
Yeah.
all, like, it's a number. Second of all, the algorithm changed. And so, like, what used to be a
Mhm.
38 is now a 25. You didn't actually lose any authority. They just changed how they measure it.
Right.
Um, and so those things are all outside of our control and outside of the client's control. And
Mhm.
so when you try to guarantee something, it's like people, other companies, just life, the world, it's really hard to do that. So
Yeah.
we can give you like
A
goals,
range.
we can give
Mhm.
you a range of what is likely, but we
Mhm.
can't guarantee these results. And I mean, anytime a client's like, I want you to guarantee XYZ, it's like, well, we can't. And maybe this call is
Mhm.
just over. Same thing,
Yeah.
if that agency is pitching you on guaranteed results, eh, too good to be true.
Mhm. Yeah. Which takes us to number 2, actually. Their prices are too good to be true. And
Fiverr.
yeah, oh gosh, right? And I get it. There are people that are starting out. There are, single people like sole props that are like one person trying to like bust their butts and they know what they need to survive.
Hmm.
But when you pay for an agency with more than one person, you get the brain of more than one person. And
Correct.
that can be really beneficial. The other thing is to just watch out for techniques that can get you in trouble, like keyword stuffing or paid links, repeat content, that kind of thing.
Yeah, a lot of
And just
times
like, yeah.
there's a couple things that happen with prices. So the one that I think is legit is if you're very small and want to hire a freelancer and they're
Hmm.
25 or 50 bucks an hour or whatever, that's fine. Like that's not what we're talking about
Hmm.
here. We're talking about you're hiring an agency, 10, 15, 20 people, however many people there are. There's four or
Yeah.
five people
Yep.
working on your account. And their fee is like 25 or $50 an
Yep.
hour. Or they have these packages that are like, we do all of these things for $500 a month. It's like $500 a month should be a limited set. Like we have like web maintenance and stuff that we do for $500 a month.
Hmm.
We've got a package there, 500, 750, 1500, etc. But there are very set things and there are very set rails around that. And you have to
Hmm.
understand what you're getting and what you're not getting. We don't
The
promise you
scope
the
is big.
world
Yeah.
for 500
Hmm.
bucks. And so, yeah, a lot of times, time is money in our business, just like
Yeah.
lawyers and accountants and all of those other people
Hmm.
who like get
Hmm.
paid for what they do, therapists, in there as
Right.
well. And so if we're not charging you, or if an agency isn't charging you very much, then they're not spending very much time, which means they're probably using something automated or a shortcut or that type of
Hmm.
thing.
Yeah.
Great example, if people are going to write a blog post for 20 bucks for you, that blog post is probably written by ChatGPT and barely looked at by a human. And there are
Mhm.
people doing that. And if that's what you want, then great. But you could also just do
Yeah,
that yourself. Like ChatGPT is not hard to use.
it's for
Um,
free.
but they may be using AI to, like, if it's more expensive than that, they might use AI to pull the outline together, to
Mhm.
get thought starters, to get. I've seen one where I've been playing with it and used it for my what's it called? Just the topic sentence, the key sentence for each paragraph,
Yeah.
for instance. But then the rest of it is written, or it's an initial draft and they go through and they edit and
Mhm.
massage it and also cut out the lies because AI has learned to lie to us really, really well, very quickly. Um, so yeah, it's, you're just, you get what you pay for, and if you're not
Mhm.
paying for quality, you're not going to get quality. Now,
Yeah.
you don't have to pay 500 an hour, even $200 an hour, $300 an hour to an agency. You can find stuff that's in that middle ground.
Mhm.
But from you know my experience, if you're not in that sort of $100, 125, 150 range with a mid-size or even a small agency, be very careful what their methods are.
Yeah. You'll get, yeah, it'll show
Mhm.
eventually.
I mean, and also, are they offshoring? Are they not paying their people very well? Like, there's all those
Mhm.
things that come into it.
Mhm.
Um, so like we know what our blended cost per hour is for services, and that's everyberry's
Right.
salaries, all of our overhead, like rolled into like this is what that costs for our time. And then obviously we need to make a profit on that and have some markup and margin to be
Mhm.
able to adapt and adjust. And I'll tell you that ain't $25 blended cost.
That's for dang sure.
Yes, correct, correct. So I
What you
think,
got for number 3?
well, I think these all kind of lead to each other.
Yeah.
Um, and so number three, their website sucks.
Mhm.
So if they are a marketing agency and you look at their website and you're like, "Ooh, I would never put this
Mhm.
out," or "Wow, this looks like 1986 threw up all over it," or "MySpace and Tom built this website." I would guess
Mhm.
that MySpace Tom could build a better website today. I believe that he probably could, but not that he's listening to our podcast, but just in case. But yeah, especially if they're offering any kind of design services,
Mhm.
if their own website doesn't look good and doesn't work, takes forever to load, huge
Yeah.
red flag.
Yeah.
Huge, huge, huge red flag. I mean, for us, looking at it as well on the client side, if we look at their site and go, "Ooh, this site's really terrible," and they think it's the best thing ever, we're probably not going to fit very well.
Mhm.
Um, so I think that that's a big thing. It doesn't have to be huge. We relaunched ours with a one pager. It had everything you needed to know about us, and we've built
Yep.
through growth driven design on top of it. Doesn't have to be fancy, like doesn't have to have animation, doesn't have to have weird things happening with it, but it should be structured well. It should look good. You should be able to
Mhm.
understand what they're doing and dive deeper into it. Um,
Yes.
and it should be easy. Like it just don't make it if they're making it hard to hire them, like no, move
Mhm.
on, red flag.
Yeah.
I mean, what have you seen like with bad agency websites? Because we look like there's times when like we'll lose a client or we'll be getting a client from somebody else and we're like, let's
Mhm.
go look at their agency's website.
Mhm.
Um, anything that stood out for you recently?
Yeah, I think, and this could probably apply really broadly, but I feel like it's very easy when you are in charge of your own content to get in the weeds really quickly and forget the main message. So it's like, oh, I want to tell you about all of these acronyms and use a bunch of like jargon and industry specific language that
Hmm.
somebody outside of the agency world or outside of your specific industry wouldn't necessarily understand. We just had that with a client where we're like, hey, have you thought about like maybe restructuring this into a little bit easier to understand bites? And they're like, oh, actually, that makes a lot of sense. And it's like, yeah, because the people that are visiting your website probably don't know everything there is to know about you. So you can't talk to them like they've worked for you for 3 years.
Yeah, I think I do that a lot when we're building a website or even going through ours. Like there'll be a
Mm-hmm.
paragraph, and I'm like, this is just like, no, this is just way too big. And we'll break
Mm-hmm.
it up, and it's like, oh no, but like from a topic standpoint, it's all one thought and one topic. And it's like, well, then it needs to be rewritten
Mm-hmm.
because if it's more than 3 or 4 lines on a website in a paragraph, it's not
Mm-hmm.
skimmable. It's hard to read, and you're making it really hard
Yeah.
on me.
Yeah.
And so I think looking at their content is a great one. Like,
Yeah.
is it what, like, is it easy for you to understand? Because if it's not, then they're going to have trouble translating your business.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
that can be really difficult. Can you find what you're looking for? Like, that's another one. Like, how's the navigation?
Usability. Sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can I find what I need? I mean, you can also throw it in a speed test and just see like if they're going to
Yeah.
optimize your site, like is theirs
Yeah.
working?
Mhm.
Run it through a quick SEO checker. Are they doing? I mean, first of all, agencies are the worst at doing their own marketing. We'll just say that.
Correct.
So there is that piece, but they should be practicing what they preach in areas of like design and functionality and usability.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah.
if they're doing lead gen, are there forms, are there opportunities for lead gen on their website? Because if they don't have them, they're not going to think about them for you.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that one just goes broader to, are they practicing what they preach? Do you see them
Mhm.
practicing what they preach? Google search them and see what results come up. Their
Yeah.
name, their agency category, that type of thing. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, and sometimes we look good in those situations, and sometimes we don't. Like there's sometimes I Google us, and then I talk to people internally, and I'm like, hey, why did we fall off the results?
Can we fix this?
Five
Yeah.
terms. Like, can we
Yeah.
please fix this because it looks bad? So they're not perfect, and they don't have to be perfect, but it should at least be good.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well,
All right.
that's three. We're kind of zipping through these pretty fast,
I
but
know.
there's I
We're
feel like they're so
running.
obvious. I hope they're obvious to people, but
Hmm.
these are kind of the big ones. So
Yeah.
this next one is huge. So what's that one?
Number four, they don't have a plan. So if you're working with somebody and they're just like, oh, we're going to try X and Y and Z and we'll see what happens. Well, that maybe be not the best approach. And I do want to caveat this, you should pay for that plan, which takes us back to number two. But the broad strategy and approach should be spoken to kind of early on
Yep.
and often.
Yeah, how are we going to approach this? What types of things would we do? What have we seen in your industry if they've worked in your industry
Hmm.
before? Some people like that. Some people want to be the only one in their industry for
Yeah.
exclusivity. Um, but yeah, that they should be able to speak to that in a discovery call or at least in a follow up to that on
Hmm.
how they would create the plan, what's going to go in it, some top level observations from your website, from
Yeah.
your SEO. Like I know that we will, if we have time before a discovery call, sometimes they just pop up and it's the next day and you don't have time.
Hmm.
But we'll do a free audit. We'll run a quick, brief SEO audit, lead gen audit, website audit, and have those thoughts for you
Hmm.
about how we would approach that. Now, we're not going to give you everything and hand you the blueprint, but we're going to talk to you about, generally how things are going to be laid out and how we're going to go with things.
Hmm.
Um, but we do have a planning product that we put out there. Like it's a flat fee. We've got all the steps of what we go through. So it's our
Yep.
plan to get to your plan. And we have examples of what it looks like in the end. So those
Hmm.
are all the things you should be looking at to just really make sure that they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Um, and again, going back to number one, if they're guaranteeing a whole bunch of stuff and they can't tell you how they'll do it, whew.
That's the siren. It's not just a flag. It's like a full siren.
Oh yeah, that's the
Yeah.
red siren emoji, like flashing, like everything.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's plenty of gifs in Slack that we could use that would pop up that siren. Um, but yeah, so
Yeah.
um, I don't know anything else on that one.
No, I think it pretty much speaks for itself, right? Like,
Yeah,
just get some brass tacks. Get some brass tacks.
the confidence that they know what they're doing and what they're going to do. But by all
Hmm.
means, to Caitlin's point, don't ask for a free like marketing plan.
Yeah.
Um, it's just that's just not going to happen. I mean, if it does, like okay, like it's a mistake that every agency makes at some point.
Hmm.
But typically, like you're hiring them for their brains, and also they
Yeah.
could give you the initial plan. It's going to change. Like, how do
Yeah.
they, how do they analyze? How do they pivot? How do they make
Hmm.
decisions moving forward? A great question to ask is, have they ever had a plan for a client and had to scrap it and start over?
Start over. Yeah. Or
Because
halfway through, change their mind. Yeah.
yeah, or pivot halfway through and
Hmm.
shift to something.
Well, and I think we do a good job of kind of setting that up when we do plan for people. We're like, give us, 60 or 90 days to test this and see what happens. And then we'll reanalyze and figure out what works best and what we can maybe retool or change.
Yep. Yeah, here's our approach going in. Here's
Hmm.
what we hope to learn or the metrics we think we're going to get.
Yeah.
You need to
Yeah.
give it 60 or 90 days or however long it is with SEO, sometimes longer. And we'll
Hmm.
see how we're tracking toward those. And then what's working, we'll keep doing and do more of. What's not working, we'll scrap and we'll pivot. And here's
Yeah.
how we would pivot or how we've pivoted in the past for that.
Hmm.
I've never known client side or agency side to put a plan together, execute the plan exactly as it's
From
written,
start to finish.
and
Yeah.
not ever change it or pivot. Like that's not
Hmm.
how this business works. Um,
Yeah.
it's one of my frustrations is like, if you're paving a driveway, at some point the driveway is paved and it's done and you can drive cars on it and you go away, you get
Uh-huh.
paid and you never come back to that driveway again,
Yeah.
ideally. Um, in our business, this doesn't happen. Like
Hmm.
nothing is ever done. Like you're always constantly
Ours is
evaluating.
our, yeah. So like the driveway is one piece of your home, but we're like a full homeowner where like so you get the driveway done and then you move on to the interior plumbing and then you probably have to repaint and then maybe you need to like work
Mhm.
with the flooring or replace some carpet like
And then 6 months
yeah.
from now, you've got a bathroom to redo, or you've got tile to redo.
Hmm.
Like the paint that you did 2 years ago, you've got to redo.
It's
Like
not
it's
working
just,
anymore. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
perpetual. Yeah, and I know
Yeah.
you've revamped houses while you're
I
living in
know.
them, and I have
This is
too. And it's just
we're really speaking my language right
mhm.
now. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think this last one is yours.
It is. So
You
I
are
threw a
the you
bonus
are
one in
the
here
yeah.
because this is one that's important to us when hiring clients.
Yeah.
And I think it should be very important to the client. And anytime I've ever done an agency review, I've had this worth like, if it's a 100-point review, this is worth at least like 10 or 15 points at the end. Um,
Yeah.
and honestly, it's also a veto for me. Like this is one that
Mhm.
can negate everything that you've done before. Um, the vibe check, the gut check. So, do you get
Mhm.
a good vibe from these people?
Yeah.
Um, when you're talking to them, my big thing, and we say it a lot, is do I want to have drinks with them? Like outside of
Mhm.
work, outside of talking about work, do I want to go like have an after, like go to happy hour with them and have a drink
Mhm.
for an hour and just sit and chat?
Yeah.
Um, are they people I want to go to dinner with? Because, you'll probably go to dinner with them at some point, or at least
Yeah.
one or two of them.
Mhm.
Um, it's a big deal. Um,
Yeah.
you'll you'll work really, really closely with your agency. You're going to be on Zoom calls. You're going to be on the phone a
Mhm.
lot.
Mhm.
Conflict is going to come up. Difficult conversations are going to come up. Again, back to our
Yeah.
dating metaphor, like very,
Yeah.
very much like dating. Do you feel like they'll respond to a difficult conversation or pushback
Mhm.
well? Do you feel like they'll push back on you in an appropriate way and you'll have a good
Mhm.
conversation? Um,
Mhm.
I think the other one, and this happens sometimes, it actually happened once with a client who got a new employee who they decided was going to be in charge of marketing, but you just get the ick factor. Like, it's just
Mhm.
like they say something, they do something, or just their presence makes you go, oh, like,
Hmm.
this doesn't feel right. I don't like
Mhm.
this.
Mhm.
Um, and, you part ways or you don't
Yeah.
hire them.
Yeah.
It's a big, big deal. I think the other
Yeah.
one is just that goes along with this is style, personality. So we're a super
Mhm.
casual agency. I mean, as we're recording
Yeah.
this, I'm working from home in sweatpants and a t-shirt. I think I have one meeting this afternoon. But
You look professional from the waist up. That's
oh,
all that
thank
matters.
you. That's what matters. Yeah. And I could put on a polo if I needed to or had that kind of a
Ugh.
meeting. But um, if you're a very formal suit and tie kind of place, now we can pivot. Like we've got some age clients who, if we go to their site, they only do jeans on Friday. So we try not to wear
Mhm.
jeans to meetings unless it's on a Friday. We try to match them,
Mhm.
but they're also like khakis and polos, which fits our casual vibe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, if it's a full suit place and you just aren't that, and your team doesn't have suits and whatnot, maybe you're just not the right fit
Not a good fit. Yeah.
for
Well,
them.
it
They're going to
also
be.
it also kind of speaks to like the kind of mentality that you're going to bring to like we we're not like low class, but we are more casual.
Mhm,
Have a more casual voice. We have a more casual vibe. So like it might take us a little bit longer to speak a different language, really. If
mhm.
we're talking to a different audience, like it might take us a minute to get there. Not to say that we couldn't do it, but that the
Yeah.
vibe check is really important. And I think too it bears discussing that like we've had a time where like 3 out of 4 of us were like, "Ooh, I don't know if I like this. I don't get a good feeling." And we like overrode that and then it came back around and we're like, "Oh, this is why." Like
Mhm.
I remember this feeling and we're probably not going to do that anymore. Like
Yeah, there's a trust your gut piece
yeah.
to it. And I think that's a really big one. And I think that, if you're out there and you're hiring an agency and your gut is just for whatever reason saying, I just don't feel like this is going to be a good
Mhm.
fit, move on, go find somebody else, find somebody that
Yeah.
you enjoy talking to, that you want to be with, that doesn't give you that, um, whatever it is, that negative
The
feeling.
squirm. Yeah. Yeah.
Squirm. Yeah.
The squirm.
I think
Something.
I'd written it in the notes, like you get the icks from the team you're
Yeah.
talking to.
Yeah.
Um, but those are
Mine is
important.
like a furrowed brow or like a like I can't quite put my finger on it, but I don't like it.
Yeah, I like it when it's like a language thing, like they start speaking about something and you're like, "Oh no," like that's
Oh, yeah.
just like when it's super
Mhm.
obvious, but sometimes it's not obvious. You just get, like you said, that feeling where you're like,
Something doesn't feel right.
it's a thing that made me go, and I need to maybe
Yeah.
step back from that and figure it out."
Mhm.
And then yeah, talk to other people who are on the call, talk to your team. But if it's
Yeah.
not gonna work, it's just not gonna work. And you're going to have,
Don't force it.
yeah, because you're going to be more about trying to manage the relationship or figure out who's going to give and who's going to
Mhm.
take, like through
Yeah.
um, those conflicts in how your culture is, your personality.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, our best clients and our favorite ones tend to be the ones when we go to their office, it feels like it could be our office. We could just plop at a desk and
Mhm.
work. The culture
Yeah.
is just super identical.
Yeah.
They do summer Fridays, we do summer Fridays, those types of things where you don't have to
Yeah.
explain, you don't have to worry about them thinking like, why are you taking these days off, that type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, culture check, vibe check, gut check, just all of
I know, I
that.
was like, I think it's a gut check for you and I, but it's a vibe check for those like 25 and younger. The vibe is off.
That's interesting. Like we should and that actually brings up a good point. Like have a variety of people on your calls and your discovery call with the agency.
Mhm.
Because yeah, you might get a different feel from somebody who's,
Yeah.
younger, a
Yeah.
millennial or a well, millennials aren't really that young anymore. They're 40s and 30s.
Thank
Uh,
you for bringing it up.
you're welcome. Hey, nobody even talks about Gen X. It's like boomers,
Yeah.
millennials, Gen Y, Gen Z, and we're
Mhm.
still here and we're still probably angry about
Mhm.
something and
You're just
getting.
putting your head down and working through it because you got the
Mhm.
short end of the stick every step of the way.
Yep, but we sure know how to mix a good cocktail.
That's true.
Um, so yeah. All right, I think that that kind of wraps it up. So, do you want to recap them for us real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Guaranteed metrics and results.
Red
Prices are
flag,
too good to be true.
red flag,
Their own website sucks.
red flag,
No no plan,
red flag,
and the vibe is off.
red flag. And
So
honestly,
I think 5 is number 1 for me. I don't even
so
wanna get to the rest of them. It's like, this doesn't feel good, bye."
yeah, and I've had that one in job interviews too, where you're just like, I
I've
actually
yeah,
ended one. I ended a job interview because I was like, look, like I'm not vibing with you, you're not vibing with me. Like this does not feel
yeah.
like a good fit. I just feel like, I should go. And it was
Mhm.
one a recruiter sent me to, so I probably should have just played along and gone through it. But 15 minutes in, and it was supposed to be like an hour, and then there was a second person, and
Ugh.
I knew like this company sucked. Like I did not want to work there, and they were super offended. And I'm like, why? I just didn't waste your time. Like you got 45 minutes
Mhm.
back, and somebody else got an hour
Yeah.
back. Like, yeah, vibe check I think is number one. We can put that up to number one. Um,
Right.
and if you have multiple red flags, just run. Like if they're doing
Yeah.
all of
Turn
these
around, just
things or many of these,
no hard feelings, bye.
yeah, even if the vibe check is okay and you really like them, if they've got like one of the other four, like
2 and 3, yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
out. All right.
Get out of there.
And I think with that, we can wrap this episode up
We can
and
also get out of here.
get out of here. That's it for another episode of Cocktails, Tangents, and Answers.
We hope it was as much fun to listen to as it was to make.
You can find me on Twitter or Instagram at RichMackey. I try not to make it too difficult. It's just my name. And you can find our agency at Antidote_71. That's ANTIDOTE_71 on Twitter and Instagram as well.
And you can find me at home sipping a craft cocktail prepared by my in-home bartender. It's my husband.
We'll be back with another episode every other week and a whole new cocktail recipe, plenty more tangents, and of course, answers to those pressing marketing questions.
And if you'd like to send us a question, you can go to ctapodcast.live to send us an email.
Or you can call our hotline at 402-718-9971 and leave us a voicemail. Your questions might be used for future episodes of the podcast.
For now, like and subscribe and tune in next time.